Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever thought about hopping on a plane, maybe not for a holiday, but like specifically to get medical work done or dental?
You mean like something that's just way too expensive where you live?
Exactly. Or maybe there's a crazy long waiting list, or you need something really specialized.
It sounds a bit like something from a movie, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's actually a very real thing, a global phenomenon, really. It's often called medical tourism.
And it's growing fast.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, the scale of it might just surprise you.
It definitely surprised us when we started, digging into the material for this deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
Today we're working from a transcript from the YouTube channel Altixoft, and it's titled The Rise of Medical Tourism.
Right.
And our mission really is to get our heads around the surprising size of it, the rapid growth, and figure out what's driving it, and also look at the challenges.
Yeah, there are definitely challenges. And the numbers, even just the ones this source throws out right at the start, they're pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
Well, for instance, in 2021, something like 3% of U.S. travelers specifically went overseas for medical or dental care.
3%. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about the total number of travelers...
Exactly. It's not insignificant.
Then globally.
Globally, it's over 20 million people crossing borders every year for procedures.
Wow. 20 million.
Yeah. And it's everything from, cosmetic stuff to IVF, fertility treatments, or even just trying to get something routine done quicker.
The money involved must be huge.
Billions.
Yeah.
Absolutely billions. And the projected growth is kind of stunning.
How stunning.
The source mentions a CAGR, that's the compound annual growth rate, sort of the average yearly growth smoothed out, estimated somewhere between 11.59% and 12.8%.
Double digits, consistently.
Yes. And if you run the numbers, that kind of growth means the whole market is expected to almost triple by 2032.
Triple. In less than a decade.
Yeah. It's not just growth. It's like a fundamental shift happening in how people access healthcare globally.
Okay, wow. Tripling. That scale really makes you stop and think. So let's get into it properly. What exactly is medical tourism, fundamentally? And, why this explosion now? Especially when, lots of countries have amazing healthcare.
Well, basically, it's just traveling to another country for medical treatment. Simple as that.
But it's not totally new, right?
Oh, no, not at all. People have traveled for health for ages. Think about, ancient Greeks going to healing temples or mineral springs. Even medieval hospitals took in international patients.
But the direction of travel seems to have flipped based on the source.
That's the key thing. Precisely. Maybe back in the 20th century, the flow was often from, say, developing countries to more developed ones for the really advanced care.
Right.
But now, with globalization, digitalization, costs going up everywhere, we're seeing a big reversal.
So people from places like the U.S.?
U.S., Europe, Australia,
Yeah.
They're now traveling to places like Costa Rica, India, Turkey, Brazil, Thailand, Mexico, Malaysia. The list goes on.
And the number one reason, what's pulling them there?
Cost. Definitely cost. Lower costs. The source gives some pretty compelling examples.
Right.
Like Americans saving maybe 30% on procedures in Brazil. Or potentially, get this, 80% savings in Malaysia compared to the same thing back home.
80%.
80%. That kind of price difference. It's a massive, massive driver for people, for families staring down huge medical bills.
Okay, so cost is huge, number one. But what else? Beyond the price tag, what's making people actually pack their bags and go?
The source points to accessibility and comfort as the second big thing.
Accessibility and comfort, how so?
Well, to attract these international patients, the healthcare organizations in these popular spots, they're often offering way more than just the surgery itself.
You mean like a package deal, all included?
Exactly that. These packages might cover airfare, a place to stay, local transport, maybe even special travel health insurance, translation help, a personal coordinator, the whole 9 yards.
Makes it less daunting, I guess.
For sure. And the source actually mentions India's Heal in India campaign. It's a government portal designed to make the entire experience smoother for foreigners.
How?
Finding treatments, requesting appointments, even sorting out the travel documents. It simplifies everything.
That sounds like a world away from what some people face at home, right? Especially with waiting lists.
Or definitely. The source tells this story about Maureen Johnston, a 63-year-old retiree. She was told maybe a 2-year wait for a hip replacement.
2 years? Wow.
Yeah. So she chose to go abroad, spent about $14,000, got the surgery much, much faster, and could get back to her life. That waiting time issue, it's a huge factor for a lot of people.
And governments are actually helping with this.
They are. by making things like visas easier. In India, for medical travelers, the process is streamlined. You can even get visas for 2 family members to come with you, all done online. That kind of logistical support is a really strong pull.
Okay, so we've got cost savings, better access, these convenient packages, easier travel. But what about the actual healthcare, the quality? Is that also a driver?
Yes, absolutely. The third driver is definitely access to, top-notch medical techniques and facilities.
So it's not always about saving money.
Not always. Some patients are willing to pay more to travel to countries known for really advanced services. Think like Canada, the US, the UK.
For specific things.
Yeah, like oncology in the US, for example. The UK is strong in research. Canada ranks highly overall for its healthcare system.
Hold on, that's interesting. The source says Canada ranks highly. But didn't we just hear about Canadians, like Maureen, traveling out of Canada for procedures? That sounds a bit contradictory.
It does, doesn't it? And that loops right back to the waiting time problem we just talked about.
Ah, okay.
There's another story in the source about someone named Rush facing a 15-month wait for a hip replacement in Alberta.
15 months. Ouch.
So she found a clinic in Lithuania. The wait, 2 to 4 weeks.
Big difference.
Huge. For $16,000, she got flights, surgery, rehab, the lot. It just shows that even in countries with great healthcare overall, like Canada, access can still push people to travel elsewhere.
So it's a real mix then. Some travel to these top-tier places for specialisms, others travel from them to get things done faster, or for specific services not easily available.
Exactly. And beyond those, traditional hubs, you've got other countries pouring money into becoming modern medical destinations themselves.
Which ones?
Places like Turkey, Hong Kong, India, Malaysia. Their governments are really investing, supporting private hospitals, upgrading infrastructure, training staff, getting the latest tech.
And how do they convince people it's safe, that the quality is there?
A big part of it is international accreditation, making sure they meet global standards.
Accreditation? Like what kind of accreditation?
Like Joint Commission International or JCI. You can think of JCI as setting quality and safety standards for hospitals worldwide, kind of like how hospitals get accredited in the U.S.
Okay.
The source says JCI has accredited over 950 hospitals in about 100 countries. So that gives potential medical tourists some level of, external validation, a bit of reassurance.
Right, that makes sense. It adds a layer of trust when you're thinking about treatment so far away. So what's the fourth big reason the source mentions for this trend?
That would be reputation, specifically reputation in certain fields.
Ah, so a country becomes known for one thing.
Exactly. Sometimes a country, or even just a region, gets this global reputation for being the best or maybe the most experienced at particular procedures.
Any examples?
The source points to South Korea for plastic surgery, especially over the last, say, 15 years. Their procedures are often seen as quick, affordable, and, crucially, delivering reliable results.
Ah, yes, I've heard about that. And Turkey, too, right? For hair transplants, it's become almost a stereotype.
It really has. People joke about Turkish Airlines being Turkish Airlines on social media because you see so many passengers with the telltale signs of a fresh transplant.
Yeah, that's a very visible example of that reputation driver in action.
Definitely. And the source also touches briefly on, wellness tourism traveling for traditional stuff like Ayurveda in India or acupuncture in China, though it does add a note of caution that there isn't always solid scientific proof for some of those methods.
Okay, right. So we've covered the why, cost, access, quality, reputation, but what actually lit the fuse? What specifically fueled this rapid acceleration, especially in the last decade or so? What changed?
Well, the source is pretty clear on this, and it's probably not going to shock you. The internet and social media.
Ah, of course. Makes their influence is just everywhere now, isn't it?
We research absolutely everything online, health stuff especially.
Exactly. The source notes that something like 7 out of 10 adults research diseases and treatments online. And maybe even more telling, almost 30% have watched or read about someone else's health experience online in the last year.
So people are sharing their stories. Yeah, patients find community, they find support, they share information. And when someone has a good experience getting treatment overseas, maybe saves a lot of money, gets great care, that story spreads fast. It makes it seem like a real, doable option for other people.
And for the clinics and hospitals overseas, the internet must be their main way of reaching patients.
Oh, absolutely. It's often their primary channel. And frequently it's through third parties.
Third parties? Like
Like specialized medical travel agencies, basically, facilitators. They don't just book the operation. They help with everything: accommodation, airport pickups, maybe a personal coordinator on the ground. They handle the logistics.
So they're a key part of the whole system.
A crucial piece of the infrastructure that's supporting all this growth, yeah.
Okay, so summing that up, massive growth potential, big cost savings, better access through packages and easier travel, high-quality care in some places, specific reputations, and then the internet just turbocharging awareness and the logistics. I mean, on the surface, it sounds amazing. Access, affordability, life-changing treatments for some.
It can be.
But whenever you have such a fast-growing, multi-billion-dollar industry, especially one involving vulnerable people crossing international borders, you have to worry about safety, about ethics, right? What does the source say about the risk?
Yeah, unfortunately, the source does highlight that side, too. Those huge revenues, they can absolutely create opportunities for, well, fraud and unethical practices.
Oh, so.
The promise of cheap procedures or maybe revolutionary cures, it can easily prey on people when they're desperate, when they feel like they're out of options at home.
And the source points to unregulated stem cell therapy as a really dangerous example.
Right. It emphasizes that the FDA in the U.S. has only approved stem cell therapy for very specific cancers and one product for certain blood disorders. That's it.
But clinics elsewhere.
But clinics outside the U.S., the source warns, often offer totally unproven, unregulated stem cell therapies. They make these huge promises.
And the danger is?
Well, not only are these treatments unlikely to work, they can leave patients broke. And worse, much worse, they carry a really high risk of serious complications, some of which, tragically, can be fatal.
That is incredibly serious. Just awful.
It is. And the source backs this up with a pretty stark statistic. Since 2019, apparently 22 British citizens have died during medical trips to Turkey.
22.
Often for things like cheap weight loss surgery. It just highlights how those attractive packages, the low prices, while they're a huge draw, they can sometimes lead people to skip the really crucial checks on a clinic's legitimacy or its safety standards.
So while medical tourism clearly opens doors for people who might not have options otherwise, and it does contribute a lot to the global economy.
Oh, it absolutely does. It helps develop advanced facilities around the world. It increases competition, which can potentially drive up standards everywhere. But the risks, the source points out, are significant. They demand extreme caution from anyone even thinking about it.
It's definitely a complex picture, isn't it? You've got this blend of incredible potential on one side and really serious inherent dangers on the other.
Absolutely.
It's offering access and savings for millions, potentially. But at the same time, you've got major challenges with quality control, patient safety, navigating these ethical gray areas.
It certainly is complex. What our deep dive into this material really shows is a field that's not just growing, it's flourishing. It's driving innovation, potentially widening access for lots of people.
Yes.
Yet, like any rapidly changing global industry, it comes with serious challenges. Patients absolutely have to go into this with their eyes wide open, doing their homework, being incredibly careful.
And thinking about that projection from the source again, the market almost tripling by 2032, and how it expects this much more complex digital infrastructure to build up around it. You know, sophisticated online platforms may be replacing or working alongside those travel agents.
Yeah, it paints a picture of a future where maybe finding and booking an operation overseas could become almost as normal as integrated into our online lives as booking a holiday is now.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on, drawing from that. Considering that massive projected growth and the development of this really complex digital infrastructure the source anticipates, how might this whole trend fundamentally change the very nature of healthcare access? And maybe even the relationship between patients and providers globally over the next decade or so? It really makes you wonder just how common crossing borders for care